It's going to be in writing. This is what you're going to pay me. Deal is done, and you get paid. Done. Move on to the next thing, right? Don't leave it to where, oh yeah, man, you're my friend. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that, and then we'll figure it out. Oh no, it doesn't work like that, because at the end of the day, you know, we had a few instances. You want to share that a little bit?
The thing is, in the beginning, everybody's friends. There's no money involved, but the royalties start coming in, and guess what? They start getting upset because you're making money and they're not. You know what I'm saying? Do you know the number one reason why many bands break up? Good bands? Because of greed. Because the singer might be the songwriter of the whole band, and she or he is making tons of royalties, while the rest of the band is just living off gigs, tours, or whatever, and they never, you know, gave their part as far as the songwriting, you know, all the, it's not an easy process. It's just to land one song with any artist, with any group, it's not easy. It is very difficult. But the point is, you know, be very clear who you collaborate with, put everything in writing. There's no such things as like, it's okay, we're cool, we're friends. No, because guess what? Money comes in and changes everything. So no. Fix it, put it in writing. I don't care if it's in a napkin, whatever. It stands in court.
Thanks. Thank you, Maria. Hey, so we're gonna, yes, please. Yes. I forgot to mention, we'll have a few minutes for Q&A, and then the panelists will be around afterwards to meet with you individually. I gotta move on. I wanna make sure and get everybody to speak the amount of time they got to. I'm gonna go next with Mark, being at SMP. You spoke already about, I mean, some of the things that you guys are doing when you intro yourself, and please talk about your role a little more and some of the licensing scenarios that you guys deal with over there.
Yeah, the properties that Southern Music Company holds and licenses are fairly small, but they get us involved in a lot of different areas. One of the things that we license is Texas Our Texas, which is the state song of the state of Texas. So that means that every time that there is a music publisher who wants to put together an anthology of music for elementary school, and they want to have Texas Our Texas with the other 50 state songs, well, they have to go through us. And what that means is we have to represent the rights of the family that were the folks who created that piece, as well as make sure that all the things are covered in their proper sort of way, which here recently we had a situation where the San Antonio Symphony did a performance of a series of children's concerts, and they did a version of Texas Our Texas which had not been licensed by us. And so we had to go back to them and say, time out, we have to make sure that this is all clear and everything else. And we were able to make that all work at the end of it, but the process actually got started a long time ago because a person who's near and dear to some of us in the room made this unauthorized arrangement of Texas Our Texas some 15 years ago when he was the resident conductor of the San Antonio Symphony, and he had not cleared it and hadn't made the arrangements to get that all taken care of then. So, you know, it's one of those things that we kind of have to back up sometimes and say, oh, well, actually, you know, the infraction happened a long time ago. Now we've got to get this clear, but before you can move forward, we also have to take care of this that happened a long time ago.
So you came to the table nicely. You didn't come just banging out, crying the American battle cry, I'll sue.
No, just because, you know, the law says that you're, you know, liable for fines of up to $10,000. We're not interested in doing something like that. We're interested in finding a way for you to move forward with this. You know, something that has been illegal, well, we want to make it legal, and then once we've made it legal, and if the word gets out, and the San Angelo Symphony now wants to play this really wonderful arrangement of Texas Our Texas, well, we want to make that possible for them, because the whole thing that we're about here is, number one, we're interested. The world revolves around capitalism and money. We're trying to find a way of monetizing this, not only so that those of us who work in Southern Music Company have a way of paying our salaries, but so that the people who are the creative artists, and in this case, in the case of Texas Our Texas, this happened 80 years ago. This is a tune that was written a long, long time ago. But nevertheless, the way the laws are written, the people who are the heirs of this, the nieces, the nephews, the great-grandchildren, all of those people are entitled to their certain amount of fair payment for this. So we have to take care of that. One of the other things that, as I mentioned briefly, that Southern Music Company does is we actually publish sheet music, pieces of paper that have ink on them. And the reason that we do this is because that's part of our business.
I remember that.
Yes, this is how we make money. And we're always looking to try to find something that maybe will be cyclical. It's nice to be able to have something in your catalog that sells and makes a whole bunch of money. That's wonderful to make a whole bunch of money, but sometimes a whole bunch of money dies away, and 10 years from now it's not worth anything. But if we can find a way of taking something which is cyclical, imagine this. You know, the old Christmas tune, Sleigh Ride. The wonderful thing about Sleigh Ride is it comes into our presence for about a month and a half every time we roll around to Christmas, and you can go to those radio stations that broadcast Christmas music 24 hours a day, but they don't do that all year long. They just do that during the Christmas season. So for that brief 6 or 8 week period, Sleigh Ride will generate literally millions of dollars for the Leroy Anderson family, because he's the guy who wrote that tune in 1948. So Southern Music Company has been trying to find a way to get something like that to happen. And for us, being that we are in the educational music market, we're trying to see, is there a tune that everybody knows that somehow never managed to cement itself in a particular version which everyone wants to buy? Well, last year we brought out an arrangement of Jesu Bambino, which is this old-time tune which incorporates "Oh Come Let Us Adore Him" into the chorus of it, and it was our best-selling title. We had to reprint it 3 times last year during the Christmas season. Well, this year we're hoping that the new piece is going to be Carol of the Drum, the Little Drummer Boy, because that's a tune that almost everybody likes. We don't get tired of it, because as soon as we're about to get tired of it, Christmas happens and then it goes away. It's not on the radio for the next 10 and a half months until we get to the next Christmas season. So we found this old arrangement of the Little Drummer Boy. We have to find out who wrote it, and then license it out, in this case, the people. And the original publishing company, the piece came out in 1942. So you then have to trace all of the companies that have bought this company and bought that company and bought that company until you finally figure out that Alfred owns the piece. And then you go to Alfred and you say, can we do this arrangement? And sometimes they'll say immediately yes, and sometimes they will immediately say no. And sometimes the reason they will immediately say no is because they are also a publisher, and they have plans for bringing out their own edition of the Little Drummer Boy. So they say no, and that's it. But if they say yes, then we have to get the arrangement done, and then we have to record it, because nowadays nobody buys music that they can't listen to. And then we've got to do all the marketing and everything else. And sometimes the big companies will let us do things that actually will generate a lot of money because they're tied up doing other things. Southern Music Company has an affiliation with the biggest pop music house in the world, and that's Hal Leonard. And Hal Leonard is a situation where they're just enormous, but a lot of times it's the tail that wags the dog at Hal Leonard. So every time that we see the people, the big money guys in the head offices at Hal Leonard, they're always really concerned about what is going to be the big movie, the big blockbuster movie this summer, because they don't know what the big blockbuster movie is. Sometimes they think it's going to be really big, and sometimes it's a total turkey. So you think about, the string of hits that came out from Disney. There's The Little Mermaid, and there's Beauty and the Beast, and then there's Mulan, and then there's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. They had to produce as many arrangements of titles from The Hunchback of Notre Dame as they did of arrangements from The Little Mermaid. But the arrangements that they did of The Hunchback of Notre Dame didn't make any money because the movie was kind of a flop. But in the meantime, if we can sort of sneak up behind them and say, hey, you are also the people who license I Left My Heart in San Francisco, and can we do an arrangement of that? Sometimes, again, they'll say, oh, no, we have plans for that. But most of the time they'll say, yeah, go do it. Because they're so busy trying to figure out what's the big movie that's going to come out this summer, the big Disney hit, or is it going to be Transformers 3, or, is it Impeccable? No, what's it? Despicable Me? Is it going to be Despicable Me 4? Or is it going to be the latest Star Wars movie? And they've got all their in-house writers working on that stuff. So we can sneak in and do an arrangement of I Left My Heart in San Francisco. And if it's a hit, we'll make a lot of money. And if it's not, we'll be okay. But that's the sort of things that we have to worry about, is because we're going to the big guys and we're saying, can we have this tune? And sometimes they say yes, sometimes they say no. Now, if you're writing music or arrangements for like high school marching band, remember that those have got to be licensed. Those you've got to get clear, because what you don't want to find yourself doing is being halfway through the marching band season and suddenly somebody says, I don't believe we got a license or an agreement for that title. And then in the middle of October, when you're 3 weeks before contest, the company comes in and yanks it from you and says, no, you can't play this anymore.
You talked about, my next question was any particular obstacles you're seeing. You've already talked about 3 or 4. Now, just what you said right now, the proper licensing of particular arrangements in the school system, right? So I work in Latin. Part of my background, and I still do, work in mariachi music. And I know that there's
there's tons of that stuff that's done. That's done under the table,
so
not fully licensed.
Okay, that's great. I mean, and that's just in the mariachi education scenario, but that's happening with everybody. Is there something, maybe there's some educators in the room here, is there something that they should be just, look, step 1, step 2, step 3, that they should work on?
Well, first of all, they need to try to figure out where they're getting their music from, and then make sure that that music is fully licensed. We have seen situations where people have shown up at our big music conventions, like the Texas Music Educators Association, and one of the big guys, the Hal Leonard guy, starts wandering the booth, and he goes to some place where they're selling mariachi arrangements, and he knows that those are not licensed, and he will shut that booth down in a heartbeat.
I believe they have the rights to a certain song, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's a great, I gotta talk to you more about that afterwards, personally. We're gonna move on, I'm sorry, Mark. Thank you so much. I'm gonna go to Abe and Ted, and just, thinking for the future, I wanna do an A&R panel with you guys, man. That'd be cool, really great stories and good stuff to talk about. But let's talk about production music, sync placements, any other information in your neck of the woods that you guys are working on. So, in your neck of the woods, what's happening with y'all?
Okay, cool. So I navigate a little bit different than most of you guys in the traditional music licensing.